welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drew B. Wilson. With more than 2 decades in sales, I've seen it, been through it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community. Because let's be honest, it doesn't matter where you come from, what background, what personality type, you can create a pretty amazing life for yourself in sales. And today's guest is no stranger to that journey. I'm actually super honored because I had the pleasure of being a guest on his Positive Polarity Podcast, and he is one heck of a human being. I'd like to welcome my friend, Mr. Dave Molenda, to the show. What's up, man?
Oh my gosh. As soon as you say sales professional, now you elevate this whole thing. Now we got to talk a certain way, but it's great to hang out with you, Drew B. How are you?
I am crushing the day. And, I'm a professional, but I'm also covered in tattoos and have Meme Lord on my knuckles. So perspective, right? It's just like success. It's a perspective. And one thing I've loved watching you, being a part of your show and getting to continue seeing your journey is knowing you've got one heck of a story for us to share today.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I got a fun one to start with if you want.
I'm all about it. Come on.
Okay. So I'm at a trade show years ago, and I go up to one of my clients and said, hey, we're going to talk about sales and follow-up today. So this is a great thing. I said, hey, how did the show go for you? And he said, I went good. And I said, so how many names, how many leads, you want to know what kind of next steps you got. Drew B, this is one thing hopefully no one on this call ever will do. He said, you know what? I don't take names. He said, if they want to call me, they'll call me. So I'm like, man, call the damn leads. There aren't any to call. So it's like I can't even connect him with my buddy Drew because he ain't got no leads. So please, if you're listening and you don't collect names or information, please change that effective immediately.
You are so right about that. And not just like collecting it is important, but collecting in a way that is actually usable. So kind of going back when I used to sell insurance, they would send us out to trade shows and we'd sit at the booth and they'd give us these little, almost like Post-it note little pieces of paper for people to put their name on. And I'll never forget being like, hey boss, it's 16 or 17 at the time. It wasn't super futuristic, but we had technology and I was like, can we just maybe put like an iPad out there and they could fill out their name on an iPad instead of all this chicken scratch?
Sure.
And it was literally like the record scratch. I swear they were like looking at me all crazy. We can't do that. That's bad. But now you can't go through it. Just scan the QR code. Boop, fill in your information.
Oh my gosh.
Rock and roll, man. And
I couldn't imagine dropping thousands of dollars on tens of thousands of dollars on a trade show and walking away with no names with the concept of if they like me, they'll call me. So, but hey, you know what? Stranger things have happened. So
let's just call it blind positivity, Dave, which, I know you're all about positivity and really keeping things moving forward. So, from a sales and follow-up perspective, what is it that you try to look at from, building rapport to starting the conversation? And then how do you carry it forward from there?
Yeah, no, great question. So I know your episode 56, you talked about a follow-up system. So we're not going to talk about that. I want to look at it from a little bit different perspective. I want to look at this follow-up piece actually from the prospect's perspective because we're so dialed into looking at it from our perspective, make sure, we have a system, make sure it follows our path and blah, blah, blah. Well, we're all consumers as well. And it's crazy how we don't like to be called at dinner time. We don't like to have someone knock on our front door selling cookies. There's all these things that we like, but yet we do a lot of these. So I'm hoping in this next half hour, we can kind of look at our system, our path and our process holistically and see if we can make some minor tweaks along the way.
I absolutely appreciate that. I actually just had a call like that with my consulting group the other day, the customer journey, because it's so easy for us to be very eye-focused and centered on, hey, what do we need and what are we trying to sell these people and what do we want them to do? And it's funny to me that when you do flip that script and you get into the mindset of your prospect and you start understanding like, what are the things that they're going through when they become aware of this problem that they may or may not know that they have that you can help
Right.
solve. So getting into that, like,
Yeah.
what's your perspective on that? How do you try to make sure that you're thinking from a prospect first standpoint? What's the best way for them to do that?
No, it's a great question, but I think we need to differentiate because so many people, Drewby, talk about the customer journey, which I love. I wrote a book on, the customer experience. And I think that the customer experience we spend time on, but we don't spend a lot of time on the prospect's journey. And I think a prospect is from the time we first meet them until the time they ink a deal, whatever that looks like in your world. But that journey right there, I think, is overlooked often because let's just take a follow-up call. How many times, let's say you were looking for a car. So you go to the dealer and you find a car, but you don't want to pull the trigger for whatever reason. And you go home and the guy next day calls you. Hey, Drewby, this is Dave over at ABC Toyota. And hey, I'm just checking in to see if you made any decisions on that car. I tell you what, that right there is all about me as the sales guy. It doesn't have anything to do with you. Nothing to do with you. It's all about, hey, can I write this one up? What did I do wrong? I mean, it's all about me. We got to find ways to shift that. Imagine if in that same situation I said, hey, this is Dave from ABC Toyota, and I just saw this article about, your company and call the damn leads. Or I was talking to a guy and he really needs some sales training. Drewby, are you interested? I mean, just think of how we flipped that around. We went from it's all about me and my follow-up calls to now it's all about Drewby. It's all about the prospect and what they got going on. And if we could really grasp that, I think we'd revolutionize our sales industry right there.
I absolutely love this, and I want to thank you for pushing back to challenge that there is a difference between a prospect's journey and a customer journey, because you're absolutely right. They are two different avatars at that point, so thank you. And I think where we can really lean in on this, Dave, and this is really about the communication process of building rapport and understanding your prospect's journey is you have to be willing to ask questions and then listen to what they're saying so that you can get those little notes and little nuanced little things about the individual so that you can make that kind of follow-up. So,
right.
Two-part question. First, what was the shift for you? When did you realize that you needed to be more prospect focused instead of, about you as a sales professional? And the second part of that would be, do you have any specific questions or ways that you like to get into that during the sales conversation?
Sure. Yeah. Great question So the first piece is I found out kind of early in my career when I wasn't having success in follow-up. So let's look at how this normally goes. Like we'll do that car thing again. So you come into the dealership and you look at something and I give you all the information and then you leave with all my intel. I have absolutely nothing. If I didn't do my job right up before you left, and if you're like, hey, let me look at this and I'll call you in a couple days, you control 100% of that conversation. You control 100% of that destination. You told me I'll call you. The old don't call us, we'll call you type thing. If you're stuck in that spot, you're done. Okay, we're already done because if that guy never calls, if you never call me back, you told me not to call you. So I can either go against what you told me or I can wait patiently by the phone and look at the phone and just every 20 minutes, hey, I'm sorry, operator, I just want to make sure that this works because I'm waiting for this important call from Drewby. It's never going to come. Drewby bought something from somebody else and he didn't have the courage to tell me. Let's just fess up and be real adults about this. However, what we need to do is put some things in place before you left. If I said, hey, Drewby, I totally get that you want to talk it over with your wife, go get some other prices, whatever. I totally understand that. What would be a good time for us to follow up together? When can I call you? And if you're like, don't call me, I'll call you type thing, I'd be like, hey, Drewby, I totally get that. And I'd love to be able to do that. The problem is we both get busy. And I don't want to forget about you, Drewby, because this is really important to me. So are you comfortable, setting up a time with me to be able to follow up? And let's just say Drewby says, yeah, call me Friday at 9:00. Well, I'll tell you what, most people, or call me Friday sometimes, most of us don't even dial down to a time. But I would encourage you to dial down to a time. And now what I do is if I have the guy's email, which again, I'll probably have your email from some communication that we had. So I send Drewby a calendar invite out of Outlook. Friday at 9 a.m., follow-up conversation. If he accepts that, if Drewby accepts that in Outlook, I now am on Drewby's calendar. If he doesn't do anything, it's still sitting there as a maybe. If he rejects me, then we have a different path that we would go. But I really want to be intentional about my follow-up with prospects. Rather than let them control it, we got to take some control. We have to have some really solid next steps. Otherwise, our whole process really is for naught.
I love that. And I call it getting permission to follow up. And I think that this is why, for me, I don't like being a very pushy or like, gotta close it right now kind of guy, because I'm not that type of buyer. Yeah. If I know I want something, I've probably already done all the research and I'm already walking in credit card in hand, like, whoever's here is getting my money. Let's go.
Yep.
But if it's a long-term thing, like, I'm going to go through my process. I'm going to do what I need to do. Right. And there may be a reason for them to follow up. So I like to treat my prospects very similarly. And what I think is so interesting is that you can almost find out if you're going to have to get that permission early on in the process by having the conversation and even asking someone, hey, when you make big decisions like this, when you purchase a car, do you usually go with the first one that you find, or do you shop rates? Like, what do you like to do when you make a big decision? And they'll mostly tell you.
Yeah,
and then there, you just have to play their game.
Yeah, we love to ask the customer, what does their buying decision process look like? And because, again, you just pointed that out. Let's just say if I would have asked you, hey, Drewby, how do you, the last time you bought a car, how did you guys do that? Well, I'll tell you what, you're going to get answers like, man, I walked in, saw the car, pulled the trigger, and I was out in an hour. You're going to get that. And then you're going to get kind of people that are like, well, I'm in my third year of research, and every year I'm about to pull the trigger, new models come out. So I don't know, you're going to get both ends of the spectrum, right? Well, I'll tell you what, as a high D and disc in sales, I don't want the guy that's going to take 3 years to make that decision. So now I start to decide if I really want this. Is this an ideal client for me or ideal prospect? And I think that's where we miss it. We tend to think everybody's going to do it the same way, or everybody's going to do it like we do it. Like you said, you probably walk in more often than not with your credit card in hand, you're ready to buy. And I don't know how many times people have talked me out of something by talking, shooting their damn mouth off. Just quiet down. You know what? I said I'm ready to buy. Okay, go get a piece of paper and a pencil and start writing. Don't keep talking, right? And it's just crazy to me.
My wife gets so mad because I'll go somewhere and they'll literally like just run at the mouth, and I'll just look at her and I'll give her that look, and she just knows we're turning around.
Yep. We're done.
It's hard for me as someone who does coaching and consulting, because it's like I want to help them. And also, they have to stop steamrolling me long enough for me to even be able to get a word in. And oh my gosh, Dave, I'm chuckling on the inside thinking about these things. And it's so true, because everyone does have a different style and a different preference.
And I think we end up with blind spots. I mean, we as sales professionals, we have blind spots. That's why if you don't have an active coach, if you don't have an active sales manager, if you don't have an active group of people that are helping you, if you're out there on your own, you're really missing the boat. That's why, again, Call the Damn Leads is a great company to work with, because you need that outside perspective. You need to have somebody say, hey, this is a blind spot in your life. You don't know you're doing this, but you're doing this. And, I've had people where they can't even imagine that they did it. We recorded it on video, and then they were just like shocked that's me. They were like flabbergasted because we did, that kind of stuff. So please watch yourself, have somebody watch it, rather than just keep doing the same thing every day and expecting different results.
Dave, I appreciate the kind words. I know it takes a professional to know a professional and to see that. And, you know, I've researched your story, and I know you built a very successful business that you were able to make an exit from. And what was it for you that made you decide that even though you could probably do whatever it is you want to do with your life, that you wanted to stay focused on helping people find that positivity and really become better communicators and living a happier life? Like what took you down that path?
Yeah, for sure. 2008, when I owned a company, we sold construction products. In 2008, Juby, in our area, the building permits went down 90%. So just imagine your spigot going off, 90% of the water is now not coming through. So we had 17 people on our team. We're looking around going, what are we going to do? And I thought to myself, you know what? If I can keep my customers in business, teach them how to do things, market, sell, teach them how to do QuickBooks. I don't care what it is, LinkedIn training. We did all these kinds of trainings to keep people engaged and employed and in business. And from 2008 to 2012, those 4 years, we actually grew 47% in that time. And we were able to get to $10 million in annual sales. And then at that point, my business partner said, man, we made it through. I fell in love with the coaching and the training. I fell in love with it. And he's like, man, I'm so glad we did that. Now we can stop doing it. I'm like, we can't stop doing it. We got something. This is like, we're crushing it. He's like, no, we're done. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I got to follow my passion. My passion is helping people get better at what they do. So many people, Drewby, out there are great at their craft. They're great at their skill, but they can't sell a hot dog to a starving man, you know? And it's like, my gosh, you guys, you have a great product, and this economy doesn't allow you anymore to just, you know, wait and put a shingle on, and there's a whole line of people waiting for you. I love those commercials on TV. You know, they show somebody renting a space, putting a sign up, and 5 seconds later, the place is full and they're making tons of money. If that was only that easy, you and I wouldn't be working here, you know? And it's just like, come on, you guys. But I love helping the people that are great at what they do, whatever their craft is, but they're just challenged at a little bit of pieces of some of these things we're talking about today.
You're so right about that. And it's interesting, you know, I was someone who I went to community college just long enough to get about $30,000 in student loans and then drop out and have a whole bunch of debt with nothing to show for it except a great experience of having a couple of good times, but you know, not much to go from it. And what I find so interesting in the school of life, if you will, is that you can develop incredible skill sets. I mean, I've met some like builders and painters and, you know, even folks that are just great at sales specifically, but they don't know what they don't know. And it's not until you're in the right room with the right people, having the right conversations, that you can truly start taking the right actions in your life. And it's a hard thing to do because, and I would love your perspective on this. For me personally, I reached a point where I was kind of in the upper echelons of the sales guys around me, and all the local companies were like, hey, can you come in and talk to our team? And I reached a point where I didn't have anyone who I could ask those questions to. Mm-hmm. So I had to go online and try to find the people who were smarter than me. And I found a lot of good people. I found a lot of bad people. So when you're working with someone who's taking that first step into coaching or consulting, what do you find are their biggest limiting beliefs? Or what are the things that they're saying to themselves that's like keeping them from taking that step?
Yeah, the biggest thing is nobody can help me. Nobody understands my issue. That's by far the biggest thing, you know, and they ask me my background, and what does my background have to do with you don't know a thing about this industry. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I don't. But I tell you what, I know what a prospect is. I know what a customer is. I know what the process looks like. And they're generally pretty close. B2B, B2C, all these things out there in the world, you can get all tied in the weeds if you want. The reality is if you don't sell something, your company's out of business. Done. No questions asked. There is no if-then type scenario to that. If you don't sell, then you are out of business. So let's just look at what's not working right now. What got you to where you are? It's easy to say what got you to where you are. You know, the other piece, Drewby, that people struggle with is, what does it look like? If I ask, what does it look like in a couple years? Most people don't know. What do you want your company to look like in a couple years? So if you don't know where you're going, hey, any road's going to get you there, like they say, right? So, you know, and that's where I think it's crazy. Most people don't want to invest in sales training. That's one of the biggest blind spots out there, because they think that they got it all figured out. And then I ask people, well, where did you learn how to sell? What school did you go to, or what class, or what method do you use? And 98% of the time, they give me that blank stare, you know, and I don't know, I just started to try to sell, you know, and the reality is most people are using the prospect system like we talked about before. Drain you of information, and then go hide, and then, you know, they're in control. And we'd love to try to, you know, combat that and do it in different ways to find success for these guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's definitely something where nobody understands my problem. I think that is one of the most common, which is funny because every entrepreneur faces the same handful of problems. Every sale has the same couple main objections. It's the price is too high, the timing isn't right, or they have to speak to someone else to make the decision. Like, yeah, you could nuance into a number of different ways, but it always comes back to those three things.
Right.
I have a quote that my mentor gave me, and I think you'll like this one, but he said, methods are many, principles are few. Methods may vary, but principles never do. There's a million ways to make $1 million, guys. But anyone who's ever done it will tell you there was a few core principles and things they had to do day in and day out with consistency in order to get to that level. And what Dave's explaining here is that it's showing up and putting in the work and being okay asking for help and being okay admitting that you don't know what you don't know, and finding a room where you can be vulnerable and ask those questions. So Dave, what do you think is, like, when you get on the phone call with someone, what's the number one question that they start with when they want help?
So usually I ask them, you know, I mean, how bad, or what's going on? You try to obviously figure out what's going on. I mean, I think of this as like you walk into the emergency room, right? If your arm is like dangling by a couple of tendons from some major incident, you're not really caring about, you know, I want to get 3 bids. What colors are in the waiting room? What music do they got playing? You don't really care about the ancillary stuff, right? Your arm is dangling there. You need that fixed. So generally speaking, when I run into people, Drewby, they have an arm dangling type of something's going on. We got to stop the bleeding like right now, you know, whether it's a spending issue, whether we're under pricing the stuff, whether we got people stealing from us. I mean, there's a myriad of issues, but a lot of times, like back to what we were talking about before, a lot of times people aren't even following up on their proposals. Like the research shows, like 48% of people never follow up on their actual quotes. And it's like, how does that work? And then like 25% of them make a second attempt and 12% make a third attempt. So there's only 10% of people, according to the research, that make more than 3 attempts to follow up on something. Well, the research shows also that most people, 80% of people, buy something between call number 5 and call number 12. So I boil all that down to think that, you know what, 80% of the sales are being made to 10% of the people. So you have these true sales professionals, and then you have salespeople. Sales professionals are making a ton of money because they know how to do this follow-up piece. And then you have these amateurs, these salespeople that, you know what, they don't, like I'm the guy referred to at the beginning. I don't take names if they want to call me. You know, how do you ever grow a business that way? I to this day, I don't know how you can do that.
Well, we call them order takers in my world. You got sales professionals and you got order takers. And you know what? You can build a very successful business with order takers if you have the money to outspend everybody else in your market. If you're going to want order takers on your team, then you have to be able to feed them with orders and people that are literally lining up ready to go. And the majority of small businesses, especially, don't have that market share. They don't have the deep pockets to be able to spend enough to create that much awareness where an order taker can be that successful. So you need sales professionals, and you need to be a sales professional, and you need to start thinking about what Dave has really made clear is it's about the prospect first. It's not about you. It's not about your business or all the things that you can do for them. It's about making sure they feel heard and they feel satisfied.
Well, the famous words of the best words that a sales, what did you call them? An order taker. The best words that you'll get out of an order taker are these 6 words. Do you want fries with that? Because that's really what you're dealing with, right? I mean, you're selling a 39-cent upgrade or whatever. That is an order taker, man. You cannot be an order taker successfully in some of these bigger, worlds out there. I mean, again, if you happen to have 20 years experience and you got a following of people that just, place orders for you, great. But if you're at all into business development, if you're at all into the one and done type sales things, man, you got to be on your game like constantly. So that's why I appreciate what you're doing at Call the Damn Leads, because you're that impetus that a lot of people need, because who really wants to call the damn leads? Let's just be real. We talked about it on my show. It's like, that's not like a really fun, right? I mean, go to the damn bank. I mean, let's change our name to a good thing, right? It's like, who wants to call the leads? I want to go to the bank, right? But it's like, you nailed it, because that's one of the hardest things is getting people to pick up the phone. They'll research the crap out of it on LinkedIn. They'll do all their industry work. They'll go to association meetings. But man, intimidation when it's you and your phone and you got 25 calls to make today and you can't go home until you make them, or 100 like we were talking about on our show, it doesn't matter. Pick up the phone and start calling people. That's what we ended up with the last time. And I don't think much has changed since then, right?
No, sir, Dave, it sure hasn't. I kind of like to think of myself like, Nike has Just Do It for the athletic community. Well, Call the Damn Leads is it for the sales community. That's the action. We got to take it. And, man, I promise you, we could sit here and nerd out and have fun with this probably for the next couple of hours. But I want to be respectful of your time, because I'm truly grateful that you were able to carve a little bit out to share some of your wisdom and to pour into it. What's the best way for me and everybody to come check out you, your podcast, and all the stuff you have going on?
Sure. PositivePolarity.com is the easiest place to go. Everything's going on over there. Again, it's just so much fun to hang out with you. You have such a great, thought process, and it's such a great viewpoint on this. And it is hard. Let's just be real. It's not like, I can't remember the number, but it's in the 60% range of jobs today require some sales ability. But yet, last I checked, there were 2 colleges that offered sales as a major. And so it's like, what a disparity. So there are people like Drewby that need to be out there helping us, because where do you go when you don't know how to do something? Please don't go to Google or don't go to YouTube, because, man, you YouTube how to sell and you get so much stuff, stay with who you know. So Drewby's the man.
Dave, I didn't have to pay you a penny to say that, and I'm
Wait a minute. What's that? Wait a minute here now.
Uh-oh. I broke the whole system. Oh, my gosh. No, man, this has been a blast. And again, I'm truly honored to have been a guest on your show, and highly recommend all of my listeners go give that one a listen, and all of your other episodes, man, because you bring in such positivity. And I truly appreciate how you are willing to challenge the guest and the host a little bit to bring out the best in everyone. And I know that's what makes you successful, and I know that's what makes all of your clients successful. So you guys definitely go check him out.
Well, thank you for the kind words, man.
You got it. All right, y'all. You know what to do. If you have an amazing story, head over to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Send us your information. I'd love to have you on the show. Make sure you go follow Dave. If you like this episode, share it. Send it to somebody you know. Tell them that they have some game to gain from my man Dave. And you know what to do from here. Go call the damn leads. We'll see you guys on the next one.